begins outside. Listening devices you can check out how you got here from Dixie Highway in Bridgeport and I-75. The tower, just like everything else in the center, is universally accessible, so even if you can't climb the steps up or down, you can still feel the thrill of the lighthouse from the tip top and the chill of the damp underground. Let's go visit the rotunda next. It's a wild informational center of some 45,000 square feet. It's lots of fun with neat things and learning too. We expect some 350,000 visitors annually to share in our fun and learn about our Great Lakes. It's our water winter wonderland. While we were going into the building, don't forget to look down. There are real fish you can see in the pond below your feet. You can see them through the wooden stick-built drawbridge over the moat. In the lobby, as you enter the rotunda, you can see a glass ceiling with deer, birds, and lots of images of animals and plants. Here is where you will get your e-ticket for the center. The ticket will let you into all different rides and shows in the center. If you're not quite ready, you can get a bite to eat at the dining center to the right, or shop for a gift at the center's gift shop. The rotunda entrance is through the red archway, supported on clear tubes with water bubbling through them. Don't forget to show your e-ticket at the gate. If you're in a wheelchair, join us. You can go anywhere we can. The rotunda, wow, what a sight. There's a real river running through this place. I can hear a waterfall in the distance. This place is huge. High ceilings and daylight streaming through the windows and the skylights. Look at that big green wall over there. It has a map of the Great Lakes ecosystem on it. Let's go over and learn something, shall we? Look, there's a big crowd of people waiting to get in to see a show. We can really learn something about our environment here. When the lights go out, you're engulfed in images around you. You also smell things and feel breezes. Really cool. Let's go over to the blue wall and see what all those people are going to do. This is the neatest thing. We're going to have a wild ride. When we enter our gliders, we are moved into a position that seems like we're flying. We're totally immersed into the action. Our aerial tour of the Great Lakes has no equal. We really experience the wonder of this ecosystem and now understand the importance of preserving it. This is such a fascinating place. I don't know how they do these things, do you? Did you see that while folks are waiting in line for the next show, they're edutained with programs on the info walk? And did you notice the Canadian geese flying and hear them honking overhead? They are projected holographic images. Back the other way now, down by the red walls. Wow, what's that above us? It's a talking spider, web and all. It's coming down on its strand and it's going to tell us interesting things about the insect world. Yes, I know, she's not an insect, but she sure is smart. Let's go into the cave and have an experience in virtual reality. We'll learn something about the Great Lakes, too. Don't forget to check the info screens while you're waiting in line. They're loaded with interesting things. While we are in this area, let's look at a special area that tells us something about the green nature of this building. What is a green building? I'm glad you asked. A green building is one that contributes to the sustainability of our environment. Here are some of the ways that we can do this. Use recycled construction materials and use materials that do not harm the indoor environment. We are also generating our own power with windmills and solar panels. We are conserving water by using wastewater recycling systems and harvesting rainwater. There is a geothermal heating and cooling system in our building. The goal is to limit the use of fossil fuels for this building as much as possible. As you pass our green toilets, you can walk into our Trombay wall plenum and view all of these systems with video stories explaining how they work. Boy, I could hardly wait to take you on this tour of our river. Let's start at the Blue Bridge and proceed counterclockwise. Come on! By the way, did you notice how things are color-coded around here so folks can find their way around? As we pass the Blue Bridge, we can see the touch pond on the left. But what is that ahead of the Yellow Bridge? It's a recess in the floor, and you can go down and see the fish in the water through the portholes. I see a cave entrance down by the Red Bridge, and look at the waterfalls. The first cave is kind of spooky, but really neat. The fish and turtles swim right over your head. I think the waterfalls are right above us. I see the bubbles. Hey, we're on the other side of the river now. We didn't even have to go over the Red Bridge this time. Let's go down to the river past the Yellow Bridge to the touching pond. See those people in uniforms? They're going to show us turtles and frogs and stuff that we can really get close to and even touch. Maybe we can touch a fish's nose. Moving on down the river, we come to a huge pond. This area tells us about ponds and what lives in them. Is that really a pair of mallards out there by that island? This pond is really teeming with life. I never knew they were so important for our ecosystem. Look, Down by the Green Bridge is an example of how plants help keep our water clean. See that yucky water coming out of the pipe? Well, when that water passes through the soil, it gets cleaned by the roots of the plants that are growing there. Look, it's really clean coming out of that other pipe. Over the Green Bridge now. Look to the right, a real whirlpool. Whoa, that's a lot of water. What is that wall over there? I think it's an example of how an aquifer works. It shows how rainwater goes into the ground and is stored. There's also a video lesson about the need to balance the use of this water with its replenishing cycle. What a cool river trip. I never knew our rivers were so interesting, and that we need to do all we can to preserve them so that we can enjoy them forever. I'm hungry. Let's go to the cafeteria. We have to go back out through the entry gate and lobby, but don't worry, your e-ticket will get you back into the rotunda. The dining area has lots of good choices that you can get at the serving counter, and lots of seating. This dining area promotes healthy food choices, too. I think I'll get a fish sandwich. Just kidding. On our way out, we can deposit our pop cans and paper items at the recycling center, and learn how we can recycle items at home. Before we leave the rotunda, let's go into the store. There are a lot of good books and things that we can buy here that will teach us about our environment. This store is run by volunteers, and the money goes to help support this whole place. Did you see the coffee shop in the store? There are some things that folks don't normally see around here. There's an area within the rotunda itself that provides a lounge and toilet area for our guides. They're young and energetic people who serve, direct, and educate us while we're here. Then there's a support wing, where the people who run this place and keep it going have offices and workspaces. Oh, by the way, we even have an area for Great Lakes Discovery Center members to use. There's a resource library and a lounge that they can relax in. Look at that big glass wall. There's a large sturgeon depicted there, and each of its scales is a photograph of people who have donated money to help realize this facility. Before we leave, let's stop off at the alcove. It's just off the lobby. Here we just put on the helmets and we can duel with underwater creatures while fending them off if you guess their names, or race down the rapids while paddling. If you guess which river you're on before you fall in, you win. There's lots of other cool interactive edutainment games to choose from as well. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed this tour. Come back soon. There's a lot to see here and lots to learn too. Don't forget to see what's going on at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife facility next door. See you soon.
Thank you, Bill. All right, so I guess we decided what we want to do with the crossing. I mean, we can try to find funding or something like that. I mean, let's face it, we can't build our own township offices, we can't build that. But if we found funding, and they said they'd help with funding, but that could take a long time.
What's the cost of the project?
Do you know what, back years ago, did you find any paperwork on that?
I have all kinds of paperwork on this, and don't quote me, but somewhere in the neighborhoods of $10 to $15 million.
20 years ago.
20 years ago, yes. 20 years ago.
This project's been basically dead for years.
Yes.
So this isn't your project, this is something you saw that we...
They want to do a campgrounds. So I guess the question to the board is, would we be open to putting the campgrounds back there, selling the property for that?
Is that buying all the property though, or just, you said a couple sections? I don't understand that.
You had just a couple lots that you wanted.
Yeah, there's two sections back there that is suitable for a treehouse park and a campground. It's, when you go back to the property, it would be behind the truck stop and behind kind of Kroger over those areas, which still leaves a lot of area for that development. And Annie Romo was a spearheading and put that together. Her team put that video together. Obviously, it was 20 years ago. It's going to cost more than that now. But it's a big project that would draw a lot of attention to the area. There's nothing like it in the state of Michigan.
How many acres are we looking at altogether that you guys are looking at?
Well, the two properties or parcels that we're talking about, one is 50 and the other is 14.
What is the treehouse part?
So a tree house, you're familiar with tree houses, right? So it's a rental idea where you're renting tree houses to stay in for like Airbnb or like a little hotel, but it's much like that.
And it's kind of like a cabin in the tree. I've heard of people stay in them and they think they're really neat. It's really fun.
If I'm reading this right, you're wanting to pay us $1 for it.
Well, initially there was discussions about donating it. And again, this is so if we're not able to do anything, it goes back to the township. So
So there's no, it doesn't sound like there's any risk to you.
there's not risk to the township either if we're not able to develop it. So my objective is to get the funding, get it developed, and it brings something into the township where there was a desire to do something, but there's a lack of funding. So this is just a creative way to try and accomplish that and do something with the properties that there have been efforts to develop, there have been efforts to sell, but nothing has taken place. So still a lot of work that has to be done to get it funding and to get it developed.
How much total land is there? Do you know that?
I don't have that off the top of my head, Mike.
Well, I'm wondering, you're talking 60,
Oh, 65.
65 acres, and then
When the land swap was done, which was before my time, I was told that there's approximately 40 plus minus acres that are buildable. And that was the whole purpose, that this whole dream of a concept was supposed to be set on 40 plus or minus acres. And that was so in doing some due diligence, I've spoke with the county equalization office, and right now, as it sits today, our deeds that we have from the land swap have not been recorded correctly with the county. So if you go onto GIS, it shows property that is supposed to be ours through the land swap that is still listed with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. U.S. Fish and Wildlife property that is theirs according to the land swap is listed as ours. So I'm working on that.
So do we even have 65 acres? There's like 40 some buildable acres, and if you want 65 acres.
That's what I've always been told, is that there's 40 plus or minus acres that are buildable. There's more in the floodplain, but buildable acres for development is 40 plus or minus. That's what I've always been told. Now we can go back and look at surveys and stuff like that and figure it out to be exact. But if you just go off of what GIS has today, that's not accurate.
It feels like we kind of got the cart before the horse.
So chances are we're never gonna get that Discovery building. Would you guys still wanna do campgrounds?
Yes, it'd be great still if the Discovery Center is not completely given up on, because it'd be a great draw.
And we can still look for funding for it. And would that be something that we would want to sell to, or, I mean, before he goes back and does all this work on joins and stuff?
Well, I'm looking at this proposed contract. They have to break ground within 6 months. The ground's been broken on the Discovery Center. That could be years.
Right. So we'll have to do an contract, because it probably has never been done.
Correct.
But do we still want the campgrounds?
I don't know that we want to give the property away for
For a
for
dollar.
Yeah.
for profit.
Put into it over the years.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
if money like that, I mean, we should invest and get that money back or something.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And I did go back, and Steve had found back in 2014 that we had $40,000 into surveys, and then we did one after that in June of 14. So we have 45,600 in surveys is all that we could find.
We have a lot more money
Recorded.
than that in it.
There's gotta be,
Into that
yeah.
project, into that
There's got to
property.
be.
Well, we hired.
And this
Dietrich
was
Brothers.
20 years. That, I mean, I don't know what happened the 20 years before that.
That's fine.
I think you gotta have, first it's gotta be recorded in the deed before anything. You can't sign a dollar contract for, no matter who you are. So I think this is a no point until it gets legally
All that stuff.
in the DDA, right? You can't, how can you sell something 8 years? So until that happens, I'm no lawyer. but
Have we had this listed? Did I read that?
Yeah, it seems like when it was listed with the realtor, they would have checked into that.
And how long has it been listed?
So when we listed this, it was right after the land swap was completed. We listed with SBN Commercial out of Chicago. And the deeds were waiting to be recorded with the county. So we have the deeds. Steve had the deeds. I gotta find them in our file room. And then I plan to take those deeds over to county equalization and have them recorded the way the deeds are that we have. Now, the deeds that we have, or the way they were presented to us, was the property that we were going to sell. And that's why we listed it. Now I'm finding that there might be some mix-ups. So,
What did you have the property listed for? And how much?
they listed it for $1 million because I had to put a listing price on it. But it was always under the assumption that the DDA board would negotiate that $1 million.
That was for the whole set of
That was for the
parcels rather than a
whole-
portion.
Land swap properties.
Are tree houses able to be built in floodplain?
From what I've been informed, yes, you can build them up in the trees. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done. This is just an initial phase before you have to have an arborist come in, find out which trees can even be used, how many of the trees can be used. So there's a lot more work to be done, a lot of money to be spent before it can be confirmed that that's what can be done. The RV and campground, a whole lot different, much easier.
Yeah, I think we would have to have a lot more information before we could go ahead with something like that.
Right, but I think we want to know if we're interested. I mean, before he goes through all his work, I mean, is he doing it for nothing?
I think before he starts doing his work, we need to put our stuff in order as far as making sure the deeds have been recorded correctly with the county as they were described to us when the land swap. I wasn't here during the land swap, so I don't know, that was before my time. So I don't know how they're recorded, anything of it. We have all the information. But I think we get that in order first, and then we can take the next step and go there. But
I also know there was a square that wasn't added, and Steve had to go back and get that all added, and he said that was all cleared up, so.
And that's what I was told, was that it was all cleared up. But the way it's recorded on GIS today is not accurate. And I stumbled across it when Andre came to me and started asking questions. I started doing a deeper dive into it, and that's when I realized that, okay, if this is recorded correctly on GIS, and that's when I called the county. Because what I'm seeing on GIS, what you have recorded, has it been all recorded the way it's supposed to be? And she said yes. And I said, well, we got problems. And she said, find the deeds, bring them into us, so that we can figure this out.
Okay.
Are you willing to purchase the property?
That is depending on the price. Again, I'll have to talk to the individuals I communicated with as backers to see what their interest levels are, depending on what the price.
I personally wouldn't approve anything less than market value.
Okay. The downside, I mean, if nothing's going to be done with the property, nothing's going to be done with the property. This is an opportunity to get a win, to move things forward, because efforts have been made in the past, and there has been no funding for it to continue to take those next steps. I'm just offering an opportunity. If it's
Yeah, I understand that, but from my personal standpoint, every business in Bridgeport is valuable. I don't see why your business deserves such a break that the rest of the business did not receive also.
okay.
Then we have to table it.
Yeah, I just think we don't have enough information. It's simple.
Until we get everything straightened out, and then we'll come up with the pricing for the next, I guess.
I'll go to work on getting the deeds figured out and everything situated with the county to resemble what was told to me as the property that we own.
Which should be done anyway.
Yes. Yep. That's just like Rolling Hills. I had to go through that whole process of getting Rolling Hills.
How long did it take you to get Rolling Hills in order?
That was about a month. So,
Okay? Anything else? Any other questions, comments? All right, we'll move on then. Old business, code enforcement update. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, everyone.
Reports
Any
in your
questions
packet.
for, where are you, code enforcement? Any questions for the code enforcement officer here today?
The reports in your packet.
Any comment?
Could you explain what's going on with Roger? Because I don't understand.
It's going for you, and he's already got.
I wanted to tell Mark that that property is classified as M1 commercial. Okay, it's not residential. It's M1. It's right next to Chad Evans' property. All that property is listed as M1.
So it is in the DDA district?
Well, I can't go into detail. I only tell you what it's classified as because you asked. So
Yeah.
I'm telling you it's M1 commercial.
Well, we have a map that says,
Hold on. And you want to put a modular home in it?
I put paperwork in for, it's listed on the hallway that I want to rezone it to residential. But currently, it's classified as M1. I have to rezone it to residential in order to make that. That hearing is going to be on the 24th of this month, unless something else pops up. I mean, I know what's going to happen around here.
Okay, thanks.
My question is, Roger had said a lot about Mike, and I'd like to get Mike's response.
So I was on inspection, I didn't get to hear everything he said when it came in. I don't know if you want me to tell what's going on the property, or I don't.
I suppose it's not DDA business, but
So ultimately there wasn't permits pulled for electrical going on, and we had consumers discontinue the power because there was electrical work done without permits.
it's not to me.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll move on. Lamplighter and lease.
So in your packet, you have a lease for the lamplighter that was drawn up by an attorney. You have comments that came back from Chairperson Flaker. You also have some comments that were brought up by Lisa Seelman. What I found out in doing some due diligence is talking to our assessors. We will be responsible for the property tax because if we were renting it to a 501c3, it would still be tax exempt. If it was an incubator to where the business was going to stay there for 3 to 6 months and then move out, it would still be tax exempt. But because it's going to be a permanent business, we would have to pay the taxes on it. And that's coming from our attorneys. I got mixed messages. Saginaw Future told me one thing, the attorney came back and told me another thing, and that's what I'm going to go with what the attorney said. We would be responsible for the taxes, and that's according to what our assessor said as well. Now, if we don't sign the lease until January 1st, we're still tax exempt for 2025.
how does that work?
And that's what NCA
Because it's
says.
as of December 31st, 2024, that the taxes go for 2025. So if we sign the lease after January 1st, we're still tax exempt for 25. That's according to our assessor. I'm just sharing the information that I got from them.
What would the taxes be, do we know?
$4,800 a year approximately is what the assessor said. So we'd have to up the rent,
How much, 48?
$4,800 a year. That's what our assessor calculated at. I don't know if, I would say give or take.
Yeah,
That's the number that she threw in.
Yeah, that's,
After the business is in here? That's the calculation from when the business is up and running?
No, that's
the
what we
building,
pay for the
that's
whole
the
year.
property tax on the building.
That's the property tax for the entire year for the building.
But after the business is in there and run?
Yeah, it's commercial space, so
It's tax exempt.
it's commercially taxed.
What's that?
Bridgeport owns it and it's tax exempt until we do that.
Right,
And when we do that, then it becomes a business.
right, that's what I'm saying.
What was the tax rate? What do you think?
So if we wait till after January 1st to sign a lease with the potential leaser, then we would be tax exempt for 2025 still, and we'd have to start paying taxes in 2026. So we would be able to give her a break on the taxes. If she signs the lease today and we have to pay the property taxes for 2025, she already said that it's a no-go because she can't start the business off paying that higher rent right off the get. She needs a break to establish the business, 6 months, that time frame. That's why we're kind of doing with the lease the way we're doing it.
Once we go into that, we're probably never going to be tax exempt again with that, I would think.
If the business were to leave, then it would be tax exempt.
We would.
We'd fall back into that status.
But this agreement doesn't reflect taxes for 26, right?
I know, because that's the original agreement that was sent back to me.
Right.
We have to include that.
Is she comfortable with that?
She's comfortable with signing a lease after January 1st and moving forward that way, yes. She wanted to be here today, she couldn't clear the time on her calendar.
But you said she wouldn't be able to pay more rent.
She would want that break in rent for 2025, and she would start paying it in 2026, the higher rent, because we had it tiered as well. So as far as rent goes and those types of things, that all needs to be worked out still. What would it be for 2025, and then how it's gonna jump in 2026, because now we have to pay property taxes, and we're gonna pass that cost on to them, that type of thing. That all needs to be worked out still. So this is not gonna be the final copy of the lease. Obviously, there's some changes, but there were some other concerns that were brought up about parking spaces. We own the parking lot next door, it's a public parking lot. And some of the comments were that they can't use those public spaces as their parking, that we'd have to pave the driveway, they need a dumpster pad, these types of
And
things.
it's not that they can't
Basically
use
saying
it.
that we need to take it back to planning commission.
Yep.
So I don't know. There's other businesses in town that have gone in that has not taken their businesses to planning commission. So I don't know where that's at.
Well, it's not that they can't use that parking lot, it's that we can't guarantee the spaces in that parking lot. We didn't with Go-Bines either. And, you know, to me, that we put that in as a public parking space for the bridge, and we can't guarantee it to the business.
But they have street parking.
They have street parking, and they can absolutely definitely use that, but we can't guarantee it.
But if we have to put a paved driveway and a dumpster pad in, we're
Well,
gonna have
it's
to
in
give
here
them all
that
that.
she had the rights to those parking spots during business hours, and that,
She has the rights to use them if
if they're available.
Can she use the Go-Bine parking lot? I mean,
She does get permission from Go-Bines, but I'm sure somebody would work there.
When I talked to our planning and zoning administrator, she said that we could do a shared parking agreement for the public spaces, the public parking lot, but we own a public parking lot. So we'd be doing a shared parking space agreement amongst ourselves. It didn't make much sense to me. I don't know. It didn't make much sense to her when she was explaining it to me. She said that would be the option. I don't know.
Now, the deal with the dumpster, they don't have trash pickup, so they're gonna have to have a dumpster, they're gonna have to have a dumpster pad and surrounding. And because it's been empty for more than a year, they can't grandfather in, and they need to do the dustless driveway thing. However, that's a DDA cost, in my opinion. Because it's our building. It's not the renter's responsibility.
I think it has a dustless driveway already. It's crushed asphalt
Yeah, I didn't know.
driveway, so it's dust-free already. But, and as far as trash pickup goes, it was agreed upon that we send our DDA employee goes and cleans the restrooms at the trailhead and would then pick up the trash and use our dumpster at the DPW, with them paying $25 a week, so $100 a month they would pay for the trash pickup, and we'd pick up their trash. It's not gonna be very much trash, it's a custom apparel shop that she plans on putting in there, and it's gonna be minimal trash.
See, and I don't think that's fair. We require it of the other businesses in Bridgeport. I think we need to require it. I mean, just because they're renting from us, don't mean we can break the rules.
So the cost of putting in a dumpster pad and dumpster and all of that would have to raise the rent, and it's not gonna work. So-
Well, it's
Well,
DDA
whoever-
property,
whoever
that should
would-
be our
whoever-
cost.
Whoever would use it, yeah, I agree, that we should pay for it.
Yeah.
That she would pay for the trash, but we pay for the pad.
Right. And if we need a dustless driveway, that too. Because that's our property. Okay, and then another thing that I, suggested was the, shoot, where is it? We did the parking lot. Oh, flood insurance, it said fire and liability, but it didn't say anything about flood, and I wanted to make sure that them and us had flood insurance. And I also suggested pictures before and after, which is just common sense, because don't you watch Judge Judy?
No.
What? You're supposed to take pictures before and after. So that was my concerns.
We currently have that property insured. Is flood insurance required?
I'd have to go back and look at our insurance on, I mean, I'm sure it's on there.
And
We already
it
have flood
wasn't in there,
insurance
so
on it,
that's why I
I'm
had a
sure.
question.
She's gonna have to get her own renter's insurance regardless.
That, she's aware of that, that she'd get her own liability insurance.
And then, it says that she's gonna pay the, bills for the first floor. We're gonna get another meter on there, or
There are 2 meters on there already.
another set? I went and checked.
But when I asked Jamie about the consumer's bill, she said that we get 2 separate bills for that. She pays the consumer's bill. I know we have 2 separate water hookups. There's 2 separate water hookups, because I pay 2 bills. Well, it's all combined, but it's listed out 2 different times. The ready to serve fees.
Okay, if there's not 2 meters, then we need to have 2 meters put on there. And take that extra Michigan off the first paragraph there. After the zip code, you've got a Michigan before and after the zip code.
So if we gotta take it to planning commission, it's $750 to take it to planning commission. That would be our cost as well. We own the building.
Well, if everybody else has to go to the planning commission, we should have to go to the planning commission too. I mean, we could actually work something out with that fee, because, because we've done it with permits for the township before. We pull the permits, but we don't pay for them because it just comes to redactos and stupid.
How much money have to go to planning commission if it's a change of use?
I'm not sure. I mean, you have an ice cream parlor that went to a bait and tackle shop and they didn't go to planning commission. You had a boutique that went to a nursing training school and they didn't go to planning commission. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are with that.
Because they sold stuff. I don't know.
All right, so we got more work to do on this one too. So do we want to just table this?
Well, we already approved it once, didn't we?
You approved me to move forward to have a lease drawn up.
Yeah.
So I can go back and make these changes, unless there's other changes, we can go in and make the other changes. The lawyer kind of gave us the basis of the lease, and I think we can change it accordingly to reflect the proper rent, to the other things. If we have to take it to planning commission, we'll put it on their calendar, take it to planning commission.
All right, so you know what, before we table this, let's touch on the rent, because if we're not gonna do the low rent, and she can't afford it, there's no use in going further. What's she asking for, to pay $300 for the first?
400 the first 6 months.
400 for 6 months? Are we still okay with that, even if we have to pay taxes?
Well, we wouldn't have to.
We wouldn't have to.
Right through before we buy.
So we would sign a lease until January 1st, which would still make us exempt according to our assessor. We'd be exempt for 2025 still. So we'd still be able to offer the lower rent rate. And she's under the understanding that in 2026, her rent rate's going to include the property taxes that we're going to have to pay.
Which is
That's been explained.
actually an extra $400 a month.
It'll be an extra $400 a month. So instead of doing, we had months 7 through 12 would be $550 a month, and then we had beginning of the second day, first day of the second year, we had set $750 a month. So that would absolutely have to go to $800 in order for us to cover our taxes. And then year 3 was going to go to $1,000.
So does it have to go up now that she has to pay the taxes after, what would it
In
go up to, the 1400?
2026, when we have to pay taxes, that's when she's going to pay us to pay taxes. We're not going to pay those for her.
I don't understand why we wouldn't have to pay taxes in 2025.
Because it's as of
When you
December
purchase
31st.
something, taxes end that day and start that day.
Sharon, our new assessor, told me that it's as of December 31st, 2024. So if you sign the lease in January, you're still exempt for 2025.
It's like personal property tax. We have a claim in the township on December 31st that we have to pay the next year. But if it comes in January 2nd, that we're
Gotcha.
good till next
That answers a lot of questions.
year. A lot of
The
money to it.
loophole in
A lot of
tax
money.
law.
I've always wondered.
You'll notice why we have crazy
I've always wondered.
restaurants.
Okay, so are we still good with that rent then? Should we move forward?
I'm good with it,
We'd
as long
make,
as when
we'd
she has
make
to
the
pay
adjustments
taxes, then it makes,
to include the taxes.
yeah, and the following would have to adjust it.
But you said 800, that's not accurate.
That's not, we got to go a little bit higher than that.
So it would be,
It'd be
it would be, so we said $750 for the second year, it'd have to go up $400, so it'd be $1,100.
Right.
Would it
It'd
be
go up to
better for
1150.
her if we like prorated it, like she just went up a little bit more like now, so that next year she would have to pay less because she knows she has this additional expense coming out, but if we spread it out over 2 years, it would hurt a lot less.
I could negotiate that with
I mean, I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Either way, it's good for us. Why not split the taxes with, $200? I mean, we're still doing better than we're doing now. And we'll know in a year's time if she's gonna make it there.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, we may know before we have to even make
Exactly.
taxes, if she's gonna make it or not. Her other businesses that she has are doing very well. So as far as her like marketing ability and her ability to run a business, I'm not questioning that at all because of what she's doing in her other businesses. She has 3 other businesses that she does.
What are her
being-
other businesses?
One of them being the Rage Room in Bertrand. She does grooming out of her house, dog grooming, and then she has a recycling business with it's actually pretty clever. She takes the busted glass and everything from the Rage Room and then gets it down to dust and sells the dust. It's amazing. It is actually making money doing it.
What do people do with dust, glass dust?
This is as good as mine a lot, I don't know. I didn't even know it was a thing, but
Well, she's ambitious.
yeah, yeah.
I don't mind the lesser amount, but then I really didn't want to lose money either.
No, you don't want to lose money.
Right.
But I'm agreeing, I don't want to lose money either. So whatever the taxes is that we pay, that's gotta be passed on to her no matter what. And then still trying to make a little bit money on what we've already put into the building.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Because right now, we're not making anything. And we put $260,000 into the building.
All right, so,
But it's somewhat the same but different than when the township got into the church. Okay? Now, the township is tax exempt, the church is tax exempt. But because we were living here, if you will, and it was no longer being utilized by the church as a church facility, all of a sudden, we would have had to pay $18,000, or the church would have to pay $18,000 a year in taxes for this property. So that's when, and I know there's an individual who never did want to understand that, but we on paper bought it on a land contract, still paying the same very small rent compared to what we were getting for a period of time, but then nobody had to pay the taxes.
which is why I questioned it in the first place, because I knew that. So,
Yeah.
and then I called MTA and they told me definitely it becomes a business entity.
Well, and there is a section in Act 57 that talks about if it was an incubator, and the business was like starting off, but they were only gonna be there for X amount of months, that we'd still keep our tax exempt status. So,
Chair.
Okay, so we're gonna table this, we're gonna check into some more things, we're gonna check into the planning commission. And the drive, well, the planning commission is the driveway and the dumpster lot, which is our expense. Roger, no,
I can't comment on something?
No.
That's related to,
no.
the township's,
Actually, I let you comment more than I should, I mean,
okay.
you're not supposed to
So
comment
be it.
during the meeting, so. Okay. Any other questions then? We're gonna table this? Okay, move on. Trunk or treat. Trunk or treat went very well. Sometimes I have a report. We ran out of candy, or cookies again at, the Dixie's Motor Speedway. We, had 1,500 kids go through there. At the Historical Society, we had 480 kids, and it actually, the stuff that I had purchased for the other event that we didn't do, I set up games at the Dixie Motor Speedway. The kids went into our castle and played games, and they got a prize for it, and it all went well. We only spent $508 on the whole thing, and if anybody's interested, I brought pictures of the castle.
I saw that.
Oh, that's cute.
We had to tie it to the van so it didn't blow away. Huh? Both days. We had to tie it to the van. But anyways, look forward to doing it next year. We didn't go through the whole 1,000 that you gave me, just saying. And I think I want to do a game next year too, because kids, we didn't set up the game at the Historical Society, and all the kids that had been to Motor Speedway came to the castle right away because they wanted to play games. So I think we'll do something like that next year too. Okay. Moving on to DDA coordinator's comments.
Okay, so update on the I-75 billboard. He is working on the base of the billboard. The outer side and the repairs have been done. Last checked, Ron Bench was going to send out our DDA part-time person and a DPW person to trim the trees. But it is painted. I drove by it the other day, and it is a brighter red than it was. So he did say that he was going to get that, and then he's waiting on the face to come in. Christmas decorations were ordered, and they were supposed to be delivered last week, and I'm not sure if they were delivered or not. Ron Bench hasn't told me, and he's on vacation. So out front, you'll notice the free little pantry and library that was built by our police officers, and those are up and running. I'm looking at getting signage minimal cost for that, just so that people know exactly what they are. Our second informational meeting will take place on December 11th, right after our regular DDA meeting. Just an update on that. And then Chamber News, the Community Christmas Giving Program is upcoming, and they are looking for nominations for the Best of Best Awards. Mark your calendars, March 12th, 2025 is the Best of the Best at Uptown North. That's all I have unless there's questions.
What was the final cost for the little pantries out there? Did they use all of what we allocated, or?
I have not gotten the bills for those yet. I've asked for them. I asked Chief Scabardis for the bills, and he said that he had to take some stuff back and that he'd give me because he didn't use all the materials that he bought. So he's going to take some stuff back and then give me the final.
Any update on the hotel?
The old days in?
Yeah.
I got nothing. I can talk to Ron Wheatley and report back to you next month. I'll make a note of that.
Okay, any other questions?
As far as I know, there's the guy hasn't been emailing back and forth with Ron, he's not responding on the motel.
All right, DDA board comments.
No comment.
No. I have a concern about the township board meeting that I attended, and it feels like we might need to schedule a closed session for personnel employment discussion. I don't know if,
Okay, that's not a DDA, then that's township, then I'll take that to township.
Yeah, DDA needs to stay in the one lane.
well, but the DDA piped up at that meeting, so they didn't really stay in their own lane.
Okay, well, some people need to stay out of it, period, okay?
Sure. But again, I'm going to apologize to you though, because I was totally taken aback by that. There was no need for that to occur in a public meeting like that, and I'm sorry that you had to suffer that.
Okay, Jeff?
I don't know.
Augie?
I'm gonna miss it.
I'm sure you're gonna miss your last meeting, huh? You're gonna come and sit by Roger. you
I'll
said.
miss Roger.
You sit right next to him.
I welcome him, but, you know, you can't sit next to the truth, so.
Well, you'd have to sit someplace else then.
We're out of order, the bird is the chair.
Well, I'm not worried, Roger. in case
Where's
you
my
didn't realize.
hammers? Mark?
Don't took her ham.
No comment.
No comment. Yeah, okay.
I'll make a comment.
Nope. There is a couple more things that I wanted to bring up. Karen and Jeff for beautification, somebody suggested that we see if we can do something to decorate the roundabout out there, down there in Curtis. And we'd have to check with them to see if we could do anything there, maybe put a flower pot or something.
Would be the same.
That would be road commission. It's not.
I have a question about that roundabout, now that you're bringing it up.
But somebody just suggested we do something to decorate it, you know,
The center?
yeah.
Okay, so we live right there. When you're merging from 2 lanes down to 1 lane, that is very confusing. There's gonna be accidents coming up, I can promise you there will be. The way that the lanes change, you don't know if you're supposed to be in the left lane or the right lane, because it like merges right down the middle. And then all of a sudden that right lane just cuts off, and it's like, but it was right here. And even the sign, it's like, it's not like, oh my gosh, I gotta get over. It's just not that visible. I think might need to repaint some lines there. That would probably be helpful. Because I've been cut off a few times now. Well, it's not the roundabout though. It's going like from Dixie towards Curtis. And it's when it goes just after, the curve on, past the railroad, junction by the railroad right there. It goes from 2 lanes down to 1 lane, and it cuts it off right in the middle. It's not pushing you over, it's cutting it off straight in the middle. And it's like, cars are now like kind of fighting for the lane, and there's gonna, like, I've been pushed off the road a couple times now. Huh?
Is there even a sign on it?
There's one little yellow sign on the right-hand side, just one.
I don't know if it's a sign, that's what I thought, I had the same.
And there's nothing that warns you, like, even leading up to that, I don't know if there's another sign that says, hey, merging down to one lane, get over, you know? I think everybody's signage.
Okay, well, that's a thing for us to work on with beautification. Another thing is I would like to start a river fund where we put some money, committed funds to clean up our river, and, you know, put some money into it every year. Another thing to think of for our budget next year. Another thing that was brought to me is somebody suggested that down by the bridge, we own that property next to to the gas station and stuff. And they suggested that we get a pine tree to put there so we could decorate a Christmas tree every year. And he even said he'd donate some money towards it. You know, we still have to pay some of it, but just another thing to think about is planting a tree in that lot next to our park, that we own it, between the park and, what's his name, Lyabowski's?
Oh, on the other side.
Like a tree lighting ceremony or something?
A tree that we can decorate for Christmas every year, so we'd have to see how big of one we can get to try, that one would cost, so. Just a couple things that was suggested to me, and, that's all I have. So if we could get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. So moved.
Good going.
You just had to make the last motion, is that how that works? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.